Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to A Gathering Place. In today's show, we're going to be talking about S.1095 and the birth control drugs that have been in the news recently. And yes, you probably noticed that I did not pronounce them, but we have an expert joining us today, and I'm going to go ahead and bring her in, Jenna, who knows much better than me how to pronounce the names of the drugs that have been in the news recently because of the end of mailing them to patients, those who may need those drugs for reproductive health purposes, and also the bill that's working its way through the state legislature, and we hope that it is denied, S.1095. We're going to take a few minutes today to meet with Jenna, who's a reproductive health expert and a doula. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you said it correctly.
Thank you. And the reason I think I did is my niece is currently, I did not tell you this earlier, Jenna. I have a niece in Virginia who is now studying and practicing to be a certified doula. So very proud of her in the work that she is doing. And she has her master's in urban development, urban design, and it's all kind of working together for her in the work that she does. So I'm just delighted that you've decided to join us today. And we're going to start this conversation right after this introduction.
Hello, I'm Marilyn Hemingway, and welcome to A Gathering Place. I said, I'm stepping back because we have young voices who want to be heard, and they're moving on something.
Branding is really important to you and your business.
Even the basic type of technology, you'll learn it all.
And people are
good question.
And we're back. Welcome to everyone who's joined us today on A Gathering Place. We are live this Sunday afternoon, but we repeat this show on Wednesday at 4 o'clock. So thank you for joining us. And we encourage everyone, if you're not here today, come back on Wednesday at 4 o'clock because this is a very important subject matter that we are going to be talking about today. S.1095 working its way through the South Carolina legislature, and then also the if I say incorrectly, Jenna, please feel free to correct me. But these women's reproductive health, two drugs that usually can arrive through the mail, but they've put a halt on that, and let's hope that's a temporary thing. I believe it's working through the court system. But Jenna, let's start with you first and tell us a little bit about yourself. I did say a doula, but why is it important that we know your experience and background and the work that you do?
Sure. So I'm a lot of things. I'm a social worker, a registered nurse, and currently a postpartum doula. That's what I do in my day-to-day life. And I'm also running for South Carolina House of Representatives. And I think it's important to know what my background is in relation to me running for office, because I do have a diverse background that is not what you'd expect out of a politician, but I think it's exactly what we need right now in Columbia. We need people with backgrounds in healthcare, social services, and putting people first.
Correct. And with your background, social work, registered nurse, congratulations, by the way. I have a sister-in-law who's a registered nurse and a critical care nurse also. I deeply admire nurses. You really are on one-on-one with the patients. And I appreciate doctors also, but those nurses are close to my heart. What led you to focus on reproductive health, if you will?
Sure.
Why is it important? Yes, we're women. We know we're both women, right. But why for you is reproductive health important?
Right. So, I always knew I wanted to have kids. That was just part of my plan. So when we have two sons, my husband and I. When I had my first son, I had really terrible postpartum depression and anxiety, and it hit me like a train. I was completely unprepared for it. And I decided to go on and take, my background experience and work it into a career that I wish I had had a postpartum doula. So I kind of became the person that I wish I had had when I had my first son and was really, really struggling. And I have found that, since he was born about 13 years ago, I've learned so much about postpartum mental health and how so many women are affected by it. People
Now I
I
was
never
gonna
knew struggled with it.
so I was gonna you anticipated my question. I was gonna ask you what was the struggle? Was it mental? And was it mental and physical?
For me, mostly mental. Like I recovered physically just fine from his birth, but I got totally depressed, sleep deprived, so anxious that even if I tried to sleep, I wasn't able to. It got to the point where I developed agoraphobia, which means I could not leave my house aside to take him to like his pediatric appointments. I think for about 5 months, I hardly left my house. I was just too scared to go out there and face what was out there in the world.
Wow, I'm so sorry to hear that. And what not to get too much into your business unless you just say as much as you want, and if you
I'm an
don't, you
open
just
book. I have
I don't
nothing
want
to
you
hide. I have all to share.
okay, so you've had your personal experience with postpartum depression, postpartum health concerns after the birth of your first son. What was it that helped you get beyond that, that helped
Right.
you with your mental health?
Yeah. So at the time of his birth, I was in New England at the time, and there were no available providers to see me who specialized in perinatal mental health. So I went to just a regular psychiatrist, and I was prescribed Zoloft. And I like to attribute Zoloft for saving my life. I don't think I would be here today had I not started on a medication that evened out my brain chemistry. I think I would have taken my own life, to be completely honest. It was bad. Um,
Wow.
so thankfully, I got the care I needed, um, but it was still very lacking. I mean, it took 5 months for me to find the care I needed and to reach out for that. And I wish I had had some more support at the time. I mean, my family was great at support, but I needed people in the community to really pull me out of that.
So how many postpartum doulas are there? How much attention, and you're saying your son's now 13?
He's 13. Yeah.
Is it better or worse now? Access to the resources for postpartum mental health concerns?
I think Unfortunately, I think it is easier to access for the people that can pay out of pocket for it, because there are doulas available, if you can afford it, because not many insurance companies cover doula care. But I have noticed that over even in the past couple of maybe 5 years, there have been more insurance companies that are covering it, but definitely it's not mainstream at all. Um, in this area where I live, Charleston, we do have an amazing nonprofit, which is called Postpartum Support Charleston, and they're
Mhm.
a really great group. I'm actually on their board. They have all kinds of support groups, and they have the Beyond Delivery program where they bring a lasagna and a care package to every brand new mom who signs up for it. So that is a nonprofit that's available, and it's wonderful. But there are no there's no integrated like government kind of system that can help women across the board.
So how do you find that there's differences? Because you said when you had your son, you were in the Northeast. Am I correct in
Mhm.
saying that?
Yes.
Okay, so how are there geographical differences? Now, we're in the South. You said there is the postpartum Charleston
Yep.
network, but uh, uh, are there differences geographically?
I imagine there are. I think the biggest difference between, if I had had my son like today versus back when I did have him 13 years ago, I think even in the past 13 years, having doulas both for birth and postpartum has become a more popular thing. So I think there are just naturally more doulas out there now. Um, but I still really feel that postpartum care across the nation is lacking. Wherever you are, there's not enough of it.
Understood, understood. So y'all, I put on the bottom of the screen postpartum.net. You can go there and find out where the Charleston network is located. So please take advantage of that resource. So we're talking about, let's move towards policy now. We have
Sure.
anything you want to share with us before we move on to policy about your experiences in history?
No, I think I just wanted to become the support that I wish I had had back when I was going through it.
Very good, very good. And thank you for providing yourself as a resource and letting us know of other resources available to us in the community. So just for, it's not full disclosure, but I want to mention this because it does represent choice. By choice, I decided not to have children. And I think when we talk reproductive health, I still have to focus on my reproductive health because when I was 50, I had a hysterectomy because I had serious fibroids. Literally, they took over my uterus and I was hemorrhaging for 2 weeks every month and had to get on medicine where they stopped my periods, my cycles. And because they could not operate on me, the doctor, I had a wonderful OBGYN who told me, if we operate on you now, you'll bleed out.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So it took about a year, the medicine, getting my body prepared for the hysterectomy. And it's one of the best things that happened to me. It changed my body, but it was time, right? Yeah. And I bring that up because we have this conversation around women's bodies, and it's in terms of having children. And rightfully so, that's very important. But it's really a question of who controls our bodies, who makes the decisions for our bodies. And we have options. As human beings, we have options. And I do not feel less of a woman because I no longer have a uterus. And I didn't feel less of a woman because I made a conscious choice after sitting with myself and being educated that, I'm just not cut out for motherhood. But believe me, I admire mothers. I had a mother. We all have mothers, right? Yeah. And to see the decisions and sacrifices that mothers have to make, it should not be taken lightly, because when you give birth, that changes your entire body, even if the birth is the most excellent birth, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm talking about going through all the prenatal, everything is just this wonderful time that we like to say is, this is motherhood and everything. It still changes everything. And that's why it's so important to me that we understand women's reproductive health and we support it in any way that we can, because it's not just about birthing babies, it's also your body.
Absolutely.
My reproductive health had nothing to do with birthing babies. It had everything to do with the parts of my body that make me a woman, in that context. So it leads me to this bill that's now in front of us in the South Carolina legislature, S.1095. I've been honestly very vaguely keeping up with it. I know it's a very problematic bill. So for our purposes, if you don't mind, Jenna, can you let's start out, just explain the bill in layman's terms and what would be the impact? Let's start there.
Okay. So this bill, it was written by 6 old male senators, okay? There were no women who are behind this, at least for the writing part of it. And this bill would be a total abortion ban, and it would be the strictest in the whole nation. So it would ban abortion for women that become pregnant through rape, so no choice of their own. It would ban abortion for women and little girls who conceive through incest. And it would ban abortion for women that expect a fatal fetal anomaly. And that means when the baby either dies during the pregnancy or if it's incompatible with life. So the baby dying like right at childbirth or within a couple of hours. A baby who is not going to survive, basically. So it I think perhaps there's maybe some exception for a woman who's going to like die immediately from some pregnancy related complication, but the bill is so vaguely put together that it leaves that up to interpretation. So I don't really know if there is an exception or what the exception would be. It's pretty much non-health professionals creating like rules for doctors to follow that they know nothing about.
So let's start with the very vague language. Then we're going to talk about the doctors, non-professional health folks making these decisions. So, that it's really concerning that this vague wording of this bill could be applied. You know, who makes that decision if it's that vaguely worded?
Right. So what I'm hearing,
indicating that. Go ahead.
So what I'm hearing is, so like, for instance, if a woman is, who knows, bleeding out or something terrible is happening during her pregnancy, I feel like, or I've heard from OBGYNs that they would have to get on the phone with their hospital's legal system and say, hey, this is happening. What can I do to protect myself and help this woman, but still not break the laws that are in play? Like, if S.1095 goes through, they would have to take time out of saving a woman to check with legal to make sure they're not going to get, you know, charged with a felony and sent to jail for saving a woman's life.
And then who makes that decision? Because now the law is in the operating room or the birthing room with the doctor and the mother, and you don't. I'm going to assume, and this is an educated assumption, because history shows, and it was recently, I believe, in Atlanta, where the mother was in the middle of birth, the C-section, and they took her to court online. And so these scenarios would increase too. It's problematic because the doctor, the OBGYN, has seen this mother over a number of months, has gotten to know the mother, has gotten to know the mother and her body, and also the fetus, the baby inside of the mother, as much as possible, because we all know as women that anything can go wrong, even at the very last second.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they're basically putting the law into the birthing room, the operating room with the mother and the doctor, and could possibly step in for some vague reason, and the mother may die, the baby may die, or both may die. And who benefits from this? Who wins? Is this, and it shouldn't even be in terms of winning.
Right.
It should be in terms of care.
Yeah. Yep. In my opinion, I think the only people who are winning or think they are winning are the lawmakers who they have no business being in the woman's decision-making or the OBGYN's decision-making about a woman's body, but they're trying to fight this cultural war. And I don't know if they're going to feel like, oh, they'll get into heaven if they save fetuses, or what they're trying to do. But it is completely inappropriate. It's a cultural war. It's bringing religion into medicine, which I don't think it has a place in unless the woman chooses to have religious beliefs and make her decisions around that. They are sticking their noses in where they don't belong and where they're not educated enough to have a say.
And in our First Amendment of the United States Constitution, you have a right to your religious practice or non-religious practice. We're not supposed to interfere with anyone's religious practices, yet it seems as if this law is a wink to, yes, I'm doing this law based on what I believe in, and placing it on others, and I may not even have that belief.
Right, exactly. They're completely overstepping, and it's inappropriate. I think it's a human rights violation. It should not. They should have no conversation. They should have no decision-making in this conversation.
Yes, it does seem to be a bit extreme. Thank you, pprpublishing.com. It does seem to be a bit extreme, not only regarding women's reproductive health care, but also religion and I would dare say privacy laws,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
if you have a situation that happened recently where the mother was literally in full labor and they
Mhm.
forced her into a Zoom court procedure.
Right. To kind of
And
it seemed like they wanted to bully her into having a C-section. Is that the case that
yes, the
you're thinking of?
C-section. She did not want the C-section. She wanted to have a vaginal birth, and I think
Yeah.
she had a previous C-section, and she
Mhm.
wanted to experience a vaginal birth, which
Yeah.
is choice.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the assumption is because we're adults, and I believe
Mhm.
she wasn't an adult. This was not a teenage
Right.
mother. This was a married woman, I believe,
Yeah.
adult woman who had previously given birth. And I believe, and I could be wrong, y'all, because I've read it, but then I haven't kept up with it. It's that she wanted to experience a vaginal birth. There was some concern, but they literally took it out of her hands, and I would say bullying, but also I've never given birth, but my sister-in-laws, etc., and all, I've been around women who've given birth.
Yeah.
Just on a normal birth, extreme pressure, extreme stress to give
Yeah.
birth.
Yeah.
You're going
Like,
through
that's
so
not the
much.
time to be on a Zoom conversation with people. Like,
Exactly.
you're in
And
an immense amount of pain usually. You're probably screaming. Like,
yeah.
it's how inappropriate. And I imagine she was traumatized by that experience.
Yes, I would believe so. It is dangerous. I also believe this law, and you may have said it also, that if you choose to have an abortion,
Mhm.
that you may be charged with murder and your doctor
Mhm.
may be charged with murder, or
Mhm.
if you have a miscarriage, that would be designated an abortion and you could be charged with murder and your doctor could be charged with murder.
Yeah. My understanding is for women that have an abortion, whether it's like even outside the state, if they go outside of South Carolina to attain one, they can still be held liable for murder. I think the women would be a woman would be punished for like up to 2 years in prison. However, the OBGYN who either performed it or like helped the woman get connected to care would be charged they would be charged with a felony and like up to 20 years in prison. I think that's what I read.
And who does that help? I
Nobody.
mean,
We already have a terrible lack of OBGYNs in South Carolina. We have 46 counties here, and I believe the stat is 14 counties right now don't even have one single OBGYN because they don't want to practice here. It's too much of a liability.
and I'm assuming these 14 are more than likely rural
Oh, yeah.
counties, which
Yeah.
already many of them have lost rural hospitals. Folks are traveling an hour and a half to one way
Oh,
to
yeah.
get to the hospital. So we are not, our infrastructure for healthcare is seriously lacking, especially when it comes to the birth of children.
Mhm.
We are losing that social safety net, if you will, and to put
Definitely.
further burden on mothers or future mothers, it's very alarming. So what can we do regarding this
Mhm.
bill S.1095? What
Yeah.
can be done now?
So, what can be done now? It's going to be discussed in the full Senate. I imagine this week because I think this is the last week before the legislature closes down for the summer. So I think this week we'll know what's happening. So I'm encouraging everyone in South Carolina to call their state senators and their state House reps to say, we do not support this. These are the reasons why it's incredibly dangerous for women's physical safety, as well as their emotional well-being, as well as human rights. So I hope that the senators and the House reps will hear us and really think about the repercussions of passing this kind of bill. Because if it is to pass through the Senate, it would go on to the House.
And the House is, in the Senate is actually considered the reasonable entity at the state house.
Yeah.
And the House is more of the wild card. They're a little bit, freewheeling, if you will.
Yeah.
So we
They've
don't
got
know.
some characters in both parts.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true. So folks, I've put on at the bottom of the screen. I'm not going to list every individual representative and senator, but you can go to scstatehouse.gov. Look up your representative or state senator, and on that website you can actually send an email. Just pull up there. You can get the phone number and you can call. We encourage you to please call and let them know. Do not pass S.1095, and S stands for Senate, y'all. That's what. And if you see H before a number, that's the House. But in this case, it originated in the Senate, so it's S.1095 Bill, and really, it is a blatant and extreme attack on women's reproductive health in the state of South Carolina. And we should have choice. We should have our options. It's our body, and we know our bodies like no one else. Right. And if you want to practice your religion, no one wants to step in front of that. We have a First Amendment that provides for that, and it provides for freedom of speech also, which means you could call your senator and your House representative and let them know where you stand on this issue. And if you take this information and you are in support, that is your right, but we honestly want to encourage, but it's not your right to impose your beliefs on other people. That's what makes the United States of America great. All right. That's what we've been hearing all our lives. Now, democracy, you're learning, is an action sport, and you need to take action. So this leads us also to, am I saying this correctly? Birth control pills.
Are you talking about the two medicines that begin with M?
That is correct.
Yes.
And misoprostol.
Yep. Misoprostol and mifepristone. I know they're a mouthful.
Mifepristone. Yeah, I am not. I'm going to put that up too, folks. We're going to talk about this.
Yep. I can tell you what they do and what's happening to them if this bill goes through.
All right. Let's put those up there. All right. So everybody, let's all practice this together today. We're going to practice how to pronounce it. But tell us about these. What are these medicines? What do they do? And what are we facing today?
Sure. So these two medications, they are used for medically induced abortions. The oh my gosh, I'm botching it. Mifepristone, that medication is used it blocks the hormone progesterone, which is needed for the embryo to attach to the uterus. So when progesterone is blocked, the lining of the uterus breaks down. So it will, undo the pregnancy. So usually this is given way before a baby could be viable, like within 10 or 12 weeks. It is 95% effective, and it is a very safe way to manage an abortion. So after that one medicine is given, afterwards, the misoprostol comes into play, and that causes the uterus to contract, and it causes the cervix to soften and open so that the materials that are, stripped away from the uterus can come out safely. So now both of these medications are being, tied up in the S.1095 ban bill, so that if this total abortion ban goes through, these medications cannot be used at all in the hospitals. So they will not be available for abortions because it will be a total abortion ban. But what concerns me a whole lot is that these two medications are used for other purposes, other very important purposes. And if they are banned, they can't be used for those reasons.
For those purposes either.
Yeah. Okay. So I can tell you what they are because
what are those purposes? Then I do have a question.
Yeah. So the management of a natural miscarriage. These medications can help clear out the uterus of the non-viable tissue during a miscarriage. And the miscarriage rate is, I've read different stats, but let's say around 20% of pregnancies end in a miscarriage, which is not the mom's fault. It is a way our body, if our body senses on some plane that the baby is not going to
wrong with the baby.
If something's wrong with the baby, chromosomal, whatever, our body takes care of it. And sometimes women need help from these medicines to help clear out the materials. If those materials if they stay in too long, a woman can go septic. Some women can die if it gets too dangerous.
And septic means that the infection is in your bloodstream, and
like
then your
all over your
organs all of your body, and your organs start shutting down, and it can lead to death. We don't want septic,
No.
folks. And those who want a more layman's term, that's the blood poisoning. You got poison in your blood because you have this foreign material in your body, and it's now gotten to your blood system, and it goes into your other organs and could cause
it's a medical
death.
emergency. Yep.
Yes,
and
it is. Yes, it
these
is.
medications can help prevent a woman who experiences a heartbreaking miscarriage from having to lose her life potentially.
So Miss PPR Publishing, I would love to know the data on how often it's used for that purpose. Are we talking for the purpose of after the body has a miscarriage and it's cleaning out, expelling the materials? Is there a place where they can go and get that information, Jenna?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Oh boy, let me think on that.
The CDC or
or maybe even like a OBGYN, like the certifying body for OBGYNs. I would try that. I would go there. And you'd probably find all kinds of interesting information about all of these subjects.
So this sounds to me as if the pills you could do by mail in the privacy of your home. It's like the DNC. The DNC is used to, it's the physical, mechanical way of helping your body cleanse itself or expel materials. And it doesn't even, DNC doesn't even necessarily have to be because you're pregnant. It could be fibroids or some condition within your uterus that it needs to clean. And it's once again means it's reproductive health.
Yeah,
and reproductive health is because of the reproductive organs, but reproductive organs can be impacted by things that are not reproductive. You don't have to be pregnant, but you may have a cancer. You may have a growth, fibroids and things that a DNC can help. And the pills are like the medicinal or the chemical way of expelling. And it seems to me that would be helpful. Let's say you live in a rural area and you can't get to the hospital an hour and a half or 2 hours away because many rural hospitals have shut down because of funding, etc. You could have the pill mailed to you and take it at home. However, it sounds as if this bill 1095 will limit that, if not eliminate that option.
Yes, it's looking to eliminate those two medications altogether. So what happens is that, these two meds working together are very effective. They're very safe. If women had to, go into the hospital to deal with the aftermath of a miscarriage, they would have to have the DNC, which is a vacuum aspiration. It's more invasive. It's more costly. It takes up the provider's time. It could take the provider's time away from other people that need it. It's going to be a financial issue. It's going to be more expensive for the woman, just the medical procedure, but also, like you said, the transportation to get there. And if she needs to find childcare for her other kids, it complicates things a whole lot.
Yes, and this is another note. Maybe the option should only be provided for medical reasons only. Well, it is only provided for medical reasons. This is not provided for any other reason but medical reasons. That's correct. It is only for medical reasons.
And also, I wanted to mention that the misoprostol, the second medication, that one is also used for postpartum hemorrhage, like during birth. When women are bleeding out or right after childbirth, that's a med that is very effective for that. So I'm concerned about women during childbirth who might bleed out in their bed.
Yeah, because it could be a tear in the uterus. Is something going wrong with the uterus? It could be when the placenta, the body may not naturally expel the placenta, and it needs help to do that. And again, it sounds to me, especially if a placenta is left in the body and not removed in a timely fashion, you risk infection, and then you risk sepsis, which leads to organ failure. So these are, science has given us tools to help women who want to be mothers or choose to
Yeah.
be mothers, because you want a healthy birth, not only to save the life of the mother, but
Mhm.
the mother and father, or the couple, the partners may decide we want more kids. And if this
Exactly.
is also part of maintaining a healthy body, so if you decide to have kids later down the road, you're in better shape to have that child, because it's not only just losing a life, which is very important. I'm not downplaying this at all, but
Mhm.
it's also keeping a healthy uterus so
Yeah.
that down the road you can have your choice of having more kids.
Right.
This is a fascinating conversation. If you don't mind, I'm going to probably go some places that if you don't want to go there, we're not going to go there. But I do
I'm
want to
cool
go back.
going wherever. I'm an open book,
I
seriously.
want to go back to the religious part of this, because it's the cultural wars that are cloaked in religious rights and everything. And people say, I don't want to have an abortion because my religious. Well, that's fine. That's your religion. That's your choice.
Mhm.
I think we also have to recognize, for example, that when is the child born? Well, the Jewish religion, they believe when the child takes its first breath, after the full term,
Right.
and you go into labor and you give birth to the child, that's when birth occurs, right? And ironically, advances in science has allowed many preemies to survive.
Yeah.
And it's in many cases those who oppose like abortions or trying to save the child,
Mhm.
you're doing it because advance in science, but ironically, they don't support science.
Right. It's very ironic.
Yes, very ironic. And I bring that up deliberately because in many times in these conversations, either we don't have time to have these conversations, or you go to a hearing in the Senate and you're having white males from certain churches sitting behind you making faces or trying to intimidate testimony of those who give birth.
Yeah.
Or choose not to give birth, and they try to intimidate, but you don't always hear from multiple denominations, different denominations,
Right.
or even different primary religions
Mhm.
that have different takes on the birth cycle. And that plays a part in this. It comes back to that First Amendment where it's privacy and also freedom of speech and freedom of religion, or freedom from religion.
Right.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That is a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot, but it's there. And we don't have these conversations.
And we should, because I think this is the basis of why these old white men think they can be bossing our women around in South Carolina.
Yes. And it does come down to privacy and choice.
Yeah.
And if you decide to have a child, have a child. If you decide for whatever reason, because of privacy matters, we should not assume people are not out here. I don't know many women who are out here who don't struggle with the question of, do I have an abortion? Do I keep this child? And make that decision to have an abortion. It is not well thought out.
Right.
And a lot of things go into that consideration. But now we've moved these conversations into beyond the privacy and choice into reproductive health, into controlling women's bodies. So we're talking S.1095, which is eliminating exceptions, also putting on the table that you could be charged with murder and get these large sentences. And let's say you're a mother and you already have children. Who's going to take care of your children? And yes, you can say their husband, but
I'm glad you mentioned that, because the senators who tend to vote for abortion bans are the same senators who vote not to feed our children in schools. They vote down the free breakfast and lunches for our kids. They vote down money towards Medicaid that funds healthcare for kids. They seem very concerned about life when it's in a woman's uterus, but a lot less concerned about life when it's on the outside as humans. And I think that's disgusting. And that's the least Christianly thing I've ever heard.
Yes. And here's another post that came up, and I want to share both sides here, right? Because if we're going to talk freedom of speech, I do believe that, and it seems, some would say that we're doing our best to protect the life of the mother, but not the child that she's carrying. Well, first of all, who is it, a fetus, baby, or child? That's an opinion.
Yeah.
And if you get into science, until that baby is born, it's a fetus, right? It's not a child. And I would want to protect the life of the mother, because the mother, and I'm a woman.
Yeah.
And I made the decision not to be a mother. And I bring that up very deliberately because it's about controlling my body.
Yes.
And I admire those who decide to be a mother, because that's your decision to control your body. But you should not lose control of your body because you're carrying a fetus and a baby.
Especially one that could be put there not because you wanted it there, in the case of rape and incest.
Correct. It could be rape, and it happens every day, unfortunately.
It sure does.
I don't know if we should say rape, but social media grape. But I'd like to be blunt, but let's be honest.
Let's call it what it is.
Let's call it what it is. That's a problem too.
I'm tired of protecting
incest, etc., and the fact that your body, even in a healthy pregnancy, your body as a woman is built to recognize and detect things with the fetus, the baby, and your body that makes that fetus non-feasible. And it will reject it, which is scientifically called a miscarriage.
Yes.
Are we going to punish women for a natural occurrence?
I think that's what the lawmakers are trying to do. It just shows me how ignorant and uneducated they are about women's bodies and reproductive health. It's almost embarrassing to me that they know so little about this subject matter.
And they don't want to know. So it's one thing not to know, because you and I both know we don't know everything. But the lack of curiosity.
Yep. And they have people coming to the State House telling them, experts in the field, women that have had to go through abortions, like telling them exactly what it's all about, but they don't want to hear it. It's so ignorant. So ignorant.
Yes. They want to be right rather than informed.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean you're right. So I'm glad you said about women coming and telling about their experiences. What are some of the hardest situations you've seen families face when they don't have the proper postpartum support? Can you share with us a couple of anecdotes of, on a personal level, not your personal story, but others that have really experienced this?
Yeah. So women that I work with, a lot of women who are in Charleston or Mount Pleasant, who their family, their parents and sisters and brothers may live out of state. So they have very little social support. They might be new to town, not have many friends in the area. So when they bring home their baby, they're usually pretty clueless. Like, what am I supposed to do with this baby? And they're sleep deprived. And the woman is recovering physically from a pretty traumatic experience. Like, anytime you have birth, it's a big deal on your body. Even if you're not traumatized mentally, your body's been through it. So just the natural progression of postpartum can be a rough time. And I find a lot of people feeling very overwhelmed, feeling like they're kind of out there by themselves, because our healthcare system doesn't usually see a new mom until about 6 weeks postpartum. And during those 6 weeks, I feel like there's a lot of room for things to go wrong that could be caught a lot earlier if the woman is scheduled to see her provider sooner than the 6 weeks.
Which goes back to the lack of rural hospitals, lack of OBGYNs in 14 counties in the state of South Carolina. And we should be investing in healthcare and improving that statistic rather than the lack of investment and pulling money back. It's interesting that we want women to give birth, but we don't take care of the children after the birth. We've undermined the social safety net. And I'm just going to say this because I'm a taxpayer. I want to pay taxes. I know people, we've been brainwashed into thinking taxes are bad.
Right.
We pay taxes so we can have a civil society.
Exactly.
It's not just to have good roads, but
Right.
I want my taxes, even though I made the decision not to have children.
Mm-hmm.
I want to pay my taxes so we can have a social safety net, so we can have a good public school education system, so we can have child care.
Mm-hmm.
If not inexpensive child care, free child care. That's where I want my taxes to go. I want my taxes to go so that we raise healthy children, because in the long term, if we're going to talk dollars and cents, the short-term investment is the long-term savings and benefit for all of us as a society.
Yes.
Also, we want to invest in our children so that they're healthier down the road. And I'll give you another personal example. I'm a military brat. So growing up as a military brat as a child, we got all our vaccinations. We went to Guam, which is part of the United States, but it's still a standalone island. So you have to get all your vaccinations and everything. I had a chance to travel to Japan. But you have to get your vaccinations. When I was 21, I had to have my tonsils removed. I was in the hospital twice. The first week, because I had a paratonsillar abscess, it was an emergency. I ended up, it's no longer there, the hospital at Fort Jackson, because I was at USC, a week, didn't pay a penny, because I was still in the military system. The defense, I should say the defense system, more accurately. Then I came back later on that year to have my tonsils removed. I ended up paying a check for like $7 or $8 because I checked into the hospital, but then I left to go have lunch, then come back and have the surgery the next day. And because I left, they charged me for that lunch. Now, if I had stayed and ate lunch, $0. And that stuck with me. And I'm like, why can't we all have that? Because that's your taxes are doing that, y'all. Yeah. My taxes at the time, and I was paying taxes because I was working, college working. Yeah. And I was paying taxes. Why can't we all do that? That's universal health care.
Yeah.
Universal health care.
I feel like our society has forgotten about the people and what is best for the people in order to supposedly save a buck on taxes or let the rich get richer. I'm not about that. I'm all about people over profit. I think it's sad when a society forgets its people. And I think that's where we're headed right now.
Yes. And the work I do is economics, because I started the Gallagher Chamber of Commerce, and it is people over profits. I do it because we do need to invest dollars into undercapitalized communities, but we're also investing in people so that they can go to work or start a business that they wanted to start, or work where they work and you're paying to go to work.
Right.
And that's where we are in this society. People are paying to go to work.
Yeah.
And you're paying to go to work. When you pay for childcare to get to work, to pay for childcare, but childcare is so high, you're paying to go to work. And we need to start to make those connections.
We do. And a well-educated set of children are going to grow up and do great things for our economy.
Yes. It's an investment in the future. And I don't know anyone who doesn't want healthy children. And you want them to start off from day one in the best possible position, good health, and ready to be taught by their parents so that they're prepared to learn once they go to school.
Right.
And that takes some investment by all of us as a part of society.
Exactly.
Right. And sometimes you got to step up and say you've gone too far. And 1095 seems to be a bill that has just gone too far and has not respected all voices, diverse voices, in particular those who are mainly impacted, women, mothers who want to have healthy children.
And one thing that makes me extra concerned about this bill is that South Carolina is already the 8th worst for maternal mortality in the nation. It has a terrible infant mortality rate as well. And I suspect if this bill passes, it's going to make that
increase
even worse.
Yeah.
And, that rate of maternal mortality is about 3 times worse, 3 times the rate for Black and brown residents, for Black and brown women. And I mean, there's a lot of social injustice in that. Just on so many levels, this bill is going to hurt so many people if it goes through.
Yes, yes. And yeah, we need to call our state senators, state representatives. Let me put that back up here. You go to statehouse.gov, scstatehouse.gov, find your senator, find your representative, and please share with them your thoughts regarding S.1095. Women need to have the options over their own bodies. That's the bottom line. And it does not need to be the justice system does not need to be in the birthing room and operating room with mothers giving birth at all. That's between her partner, her God, if there is, they choose to be, religious or non-religious. There are a lot of people who are non-religious. And we don't want to acknowledge that, but we do do that here because we try to be fair and equitable in our approach. Jenna, what else do we need to know? I think I've gotten through all my questions that I had. What else do you think we need to know as we wrap this up today?
I think it's important when we're thinking about this total abortion bill is to really look beyond the repercussions that are kind of obvious, like the lack of, decision-making power that the women will have if this is put into place, but look at the repercussions way down the road, like when these babies are born to moms that never wanted to have them, what is that going to do to their mental health as they're growing up, potentially into poverty, into cycles of abuse, especially if we don't have social services in place to help them because they're not being put into place. Like, what's it going to look like down the road for these poor kids that they wouldn't otherwise be in our system? That really concerns me.
Understood. So you mentioned earlier in the show, we didn't focus on that, but that you're running for state house. Tell us a little bit, what district and where is that district located?
So I'm running for state house in District 112, and that is a part of Mount Pleasant. It's Sullivan's Island, Isle of Palms, and part of Awendaw.
All right. Very good. Very good. Well, we want to thank you for coming on and educating us regarding S.1095. Y'all, please call your senator and representative. Make that decision, the best decision regarding women's reproductive health care. You told us about the 2 M's. I'm going to call them the 2 M's because I have to see it to be able to pronounce it. But the judges have upheld that they cannot be mailed right now. Hopefully that will be temporary because we do need that. My mother had a DNC, and I can recall I was at that age, probably high school, college, where you really don't appreciate those details. But she went all the way to New York because my aunt was the head nurse at Jamaica Hospital in New York City. And she said, you come up here and we're going to make sure you get the best care. And I remember going with her on the trip. But when you're the child with a child's mind, but that was for her to get the best reproductive health care. And we went all the way to New York City where she had a DNC because she was having issues. And this was years, y'all. I mean, I'm like hitting probably 20 at the time. And I was the last child. So, but she had to take care of some health issues, and she did go get that DNC, and it took care of the problems she had at the time. And she went on and lived probably another 20 years or so, 27 years. So it is very serious that we do take care of our women's reproductive health. Definitely. And that women have the choice regarding our bodies because we know our bodies like no one else.
Yes, absolutely. Good point.
Yeah. Jenna, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for educating us. I look forward to you. Come on back later on. Hopefully you'll be in the house when you come back and let us know, give us an update on everything that's going on.
Thank you, Marilyn, so much for having me on.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This will be repeated on Wednesday at 4:00 and come back every Sunday. Well, I'm not going to take not every Sunday because sometimes we can't get our guests and all, but check us out on Sundays at 4:00. We'll be here. And sometimes we pop in like we did yesterday and talk about current news, especially if it's something breaking like the SCOTUS decision that happened this past week. So thank you, Jenna. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thanks for the great comments, and we'll see you later.